This tape records an interview between Roberta and Hurley Haygood and Bryan Sigler, who lives at 617 Union Street in Hannibal, Missouri. The date is January the 24th, 1983. I'd like to ask you a question to start with about where you came from, Bryan.
New Canton, Illinois. I was born in New Canton, Illinois.
And what year were you born?
1896.
And you moved to Hannibal?
No, we moved to Louisiana, Missouri first.
That's a great town. I was born there.
I was a kid there. My dad, he worked in a rock quarry there. He was a powder monkey. They call it powder monkey blasting. And then we moved to Hannibal. I forget just what year it was, but my mother and father separated.
What was your father's name?
George
Sigler. And when you say powder monkey,
well, that was a man that loaded the holes. They call them powder monkeys. He loaded the holes and shoot them. Now, at that time, they didn't have the electrical plunger, like you blast with. They had to make the fuses and light the fuses. Now, when my dad sometime would have 10 holes or 15 holes to blow, well, naturally, the first hole, the fuse would be longer. And then as it come down closer, they were shorter, so that you would have time to talk before the first one went off, see?
These holes would be down in the rock.
Oh, yeah, down in the rock,
and
yeah.
Dynamite down in them.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and it'd make say for instance, if you had 10 holes to blow, you'd make the first hole a big long fuse on it. And then shorter. So you have time to talk here before the first one went off. They had it timed pretty well, you know.
And you'd probably run pretty fast after you lit that
Yes,
last
this is a rock clear right up on top of the hill right up here where he was worked at. See.
Now, where would that be located?
That would be well, you go over the viaduct, you know.
Yes.
And then at that time there was no road there. There was a bridge or a gravel road.
Yes.
Well, there's a big rock house right there.
Yes.
And he blasted rock out after that house, and that rock buried right up on top of the hill.
I see.
Yeah.
There's a boat factory up there now, or was.
They used to be, but it's not there anymore. Now they used to grind that rock up there, and then they had a chute that you put the rock in, and then the railroad cars down here, they'd load the cars. And that way the rock would come right down that chute in the cars. So. Yeah, that was the way it was. That was a great rock quarry at that time. Houston and Bland was the name of it. Was a rock quarry.
Remember any yarns that your dad told you about being a powder monkey?
Well, yes. He told me one time that he had 6 holes to blow, and there's 5 of them went off. But the one in the 6th didn't go off. Well, it's a little dangerous to get down in there with that prog, with a big long stick with a hook on it, to pull that dynamite out of that hole. And when they stuck that prog down in there, there's smoke come out of the hole. That fuse is probably the powder wasn't in that fuse. It was still smoking. See, well, it just took about 2 minutes for that to get down into where the powder was. When he was progging there, he noticed it's coming up. See, well, he just fell over backwards down the hill and it went off. And you had to blow it in pieces if you had them.
That would have been pretty exciting.
Oh, that was pretty exciting. I never forget, I was a kid at that time. And so Dad come home, and he always had the headache. The smoke from that dynamite gave him a headache. And he had to take pills for that headache. And finally the doctor told him he just has to leave that powder alone because it affected his sinus. So finally he gave it up. The powder.
Now the name of that quarry was
Houston and Bland.
Houston and Bland.
Yeah.
Do you know Mr. Bland's first name? Do you know the first name of that Mr. Bland?
Mr. Bland? No, I don't. His last name was Bland. I know. Yeah.
Bryan, around Hannibal, I know of at least a dozen different old quarries.
Yeah.
Did he ever work in any of the other quarries?
Yes, there was another quarry down the river here. I forget the name of it, down by the cement plant up on top of that hill. And that was owned by Houston's, some of his relations. And they didn't get along very good. And so he worked in that quarry. See, all of your streets then was gravel. There was very little concrete. And they had a horse and wagon, and they haul the gravel and put it on the street and roll it down, see. And so therefore they used a lot of gravel. Until there was only 2 streets in Hannibal that I remember was paved at that time, was Church Street and Center Street.
Well, now this gravel, let's come back to that.
Yeah.
Was that blasted out?
Yeah, that was blasted, but it was ground up. It was ground up in all small pieces.
Yeah.
And it was put on the street, and then they run a big roller over it to make it down, see.
They had screens they ran that through to get the different sizes of rocks, didn't they?
Well, yes, yes. Now, yeah, there were screens. There was 4 screens. The first screen was a real fine one. Now, they used that in cement. They mixed with cement, see. Now, you take, when they made cement for the streets, they didn't use all sand. They had to use small, a little bit bigger than sand to make it coarser so that the cement would hold it. If it didn't make it sand, it'd bust up, see. So that's what they did with that gravel. They took the finest part. Now the other part, they put on the street and rolled it. And they didn't have any oil at that time like they do now. They used to put oil on it now, so you roll it. But it wasn't oil then. They just put it with a great big roller and just rolled it, see. And it mashed it down. Of course, now they had to work on the streets quite often because rain, you know, would deteriorate that gravel and make ruts in it, see. And ever so often they have to run over with a forking business to gravel it to straighten it, to even it up, and then roll it again. That was quite a trick. And now they used to get gravel out of Bear Creek, out here between here and Oakwood. They used to get gravel there. Now the gravel that they got out of the creek was better than the rock that they crushed, because some of it was rounder out of the creek, and it held together better, seems like. But then they started mixing it together. See, the two ingredients of gravel, they mixed it together, and they found out that it lasted longer in concrete than it did just ordinary gravel out of one place. Your hill, the rock that you got out of these hills, there was too much of a sharp. There was too much flat stuff in it. And the gravel out of your creeks was more rounder, round from the sea, and therefore it made better substance for the.
In those early days, did they haul this gravel by team?
Oh yes, by team. They had wagons, and they had round poles in the wagon, and they were round down at the end. They'd fill this wagon full of gravel, all right, and to get out where they wanted, they'd just get out there and they'd lift up this pole here, and the gravel would go down, and then they'd lift up another one, and more gravel would go down. That way they evened it out. See, wouldn't all come out at once.
The sides of these wagons were sloped down.
No, the wagons was just ordinary wagons with poles in their bottoms to a bed. And I guess they held, I think, about 2 or 3 tons on that. And that was the only way they had to distribute it equally.
Now, the horses in those days would have been pretty good sized horses.
Oh yeah, there was a big. Well, they used a lot of mules too, but you found out that horses was better, because you take a mule is a pretty educated animal. If you put too big a loader on a mule, he won't move it. You just stand there, you whip him all you want to. But if it's a load that he can move without straining himself, he'll move it. But horses won't do that. They'll just strain and strain and strain till they give out. A mule is a pretty educated animal. My brother owned a farm over in Illinois here. That's all right. And he had all mules. And you take a real dark night. Now it's about 11 miles over to tenderhoof over here. And they'd start home at night, the blackest night ever was. And you didn't have to touch the line. That mule would follow that road. And if they come to a big pool of water where it's deep or something, they'd get around it. Yeah, they wouldn't get on in that hole. They was educated. And they didn't have to touch them lines at all. That mule knows where he was going. Now, just like down in the mines, I worked in a mine down here, the shale mine.
For the cement plant.
Huh?
For the cement plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked in a mine there, and I had mules in that mine. I drove a mule. And he was an enormous big mule. Now, those mules in there were in there for 7 days down under the ground. They have to bring them out 2 days out of 7 to get the light in the air, see? And their wool is that long, being in that dark. You run the hand over the wool and sparks will fly, static electricity, see? And those mules, you didn't have to, they know exactly all them entries of that mine. I could take you down in there, you get lost, but you wouldn't lose that mule. You take him back under that hill 2 miles under that hill, regardless of the different entries, he'll find his way to the barn. Oh, right? Yes, he'll find his way to that barn. And they'll get out of the way. Now, those carts will hold 2.5 to 3 tons, those steel carts that they haul the shale out.
It's on a track.
Yeah, the tractor's on the track. And there'd be certain switch tracks there, see? And you could tell that mule, haul, like that. And he'll turn over to the left. And then you jump out and pull the switch track to put the cargo on another side, and see, in order to get it to go out the slope by cable. And you didn't have to have lines from it all. They know it exactly. And when that whistle blew, about, I guess at 5 o'clock, that whistle blew 4:45. And when 4:05 blew, you better pull that tail chain out of that car, because that mule would take the cart and all to the barn. Yeah, you do it now. And it's the funniest thing I ever seen. They say a mule is, they've got a out counting that a mule is stubborn. A mule ain't stubborn, he's got good sense. You couldn't run that mule in a wire fence. No, And a big hole in the ground, you couldn't be. He'll jump around it. An old horse, he'll take right out across if you break his neck.
And run into a fence.
Oh, he run into a fence.
Yeah.
But that mules don't do it, they're smart. And the same way down that mine, there's been many when killed, they never had been. Them mules I've seen when that whistle would blow, the entry is 8 feet wide. And the cart, the steel bed takes up about 4 feet. Well, that only leaves 2 feet on each side. And that mule has to hug that. If they start down a slope, you're supposed to get out and run on iron. You carry on the side. You run it in the hole, they call it a sprag. You run that in, that's what the brakes on, see? So it goes all over the mule. Well, you ain't going over that mule. Because when that car gets close to him, he'll get up against that side and get out of the way of it.
Bryan, no one has ever told me about that shale mine down there. My dad worked in the cement plant, and I know where the shale mine entrance was.
Yes, yeah.
But tell me a little bit about the mine, how far it went down. Did it go straight back?
Well, no. The mine went down on a slope, about a 45 degree. About a 45, and there I can remember was 280 feet from where. That don't mean straight down. That's sloping off. Well, after you this cart, there's a steam engine out there that's capable of pulling the carts up. Yeah. See, all right. They run the empty carts down. They go on the siding there, and they'll go over to the right. The full ones come up this side, and the empty ones go over that side. And the tractor got a spring in it that throws it itself. See, and now you get down to the entry there. I used to work on the entry. I didn't like it. Too much electricity there for me. And you get down to the bottom of that, and a whole lot of switchboards there that you had to plug in different switches, for back in the mine.
For your lights.
That's for the lights. Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's damp in there, and there's any chance of getting electrocuted. You got to wear rubber boots and rubber gloves.
Was it wet back in the mine?
This was right down at the bottom. That's where it was wet. Now, there's where there's where the mules picked the cart up and take them back in the mine. Of course, later on, you got electricity by cable, just like a trolley car. But at that time, the mules pulled them. And then they had electric shovels back in there that they throw the shovel back on the conveyor belt and throws the shale in these carts.
Yeah. Now this shale is a component of cement. They actually had to have it
Oh
to
yeah.
make their cement.
Oh yeah, they had to
for,
have.
for the cement factory, which was close by there.
Yeah, yeah.
But now that entrance was fairly close to the river.
Yes, there was a railroad track between there and the river. I guess it was from the river itself. It must have been, I guess a city block from where. But of course, down in the mine, they had sump pumps in there. There was seeping water that come in because it's lower in the river, and they had to have electric pumps in there to keep that water pumped out. It was seeping in from the river. See.
Did you ever work in the rock quarry?
No, the rock quarry was on top of us, and when they put on those big blasts up there, sometimes they shoot off. They'd shoot off an enormous lot of rock, and the boss would come in and holler, "Big shot on the hills, 3-5." All right, that's 5 minutes after 5, 5 minutes after 3. All right, you watch it. It's 3 o'clock. At 3 minutes after 5, I think it was.
Yeah.
But they let you have 5 minutes to get out in the entry. It was more safer in the entry because the entry is only about 8 or 10 feet wide, and the room was 80 feet. 80 feet this way, 300 feet this way, and 15-foot ceiling. That was.
Did they have that shored up?
Huh?
Did they have that shored up, the room? Did they have any logs or beams?
Oh yes, they had props in there. They had props to hold the ceiling up.
Nice.
A man would go in there and he'd take a big iron bar and he'd hit the ceiling. If it sounded drummy, they had put props under it, poles about that big, see, to hold the ceiling up. But some of them fell anyway. And I was working with a man called Snodgrass, and he had both legs mashed off.
By rocks?
Well, there was a big hunk of rock up on the side of the mine, and it was stuck way out, and it looked like it was coming loose. Shale is a funny thing. If you get moisture in behind it, it'll fall eventually. Rock won't do that. It's just shale. The moisture's in it.
Yeah.
All right, he was afraid to pry that off because it looked like 2 or 3 tons of it, and he got a little bit too close, and when he plugged it off, he would run the back up, his heels hit the track, the narrow gauge track, and he fell over. And it fell over on both legs, makes his legs off.
Well.
Yeah, I never forget that. I hauled him out on a cart.
Well. What years would you have worked down there, approximately?
Oh, I was 20. I think I was 22 or 23. That was 6 years ago.
Now you worked down there. What else did you do, Bryan, in occupations?
I was a paper hanger.
I see.
And I worked on that during the summertime, and in wintertime I worked down the shale mine.
I see.
I liked the shale mine because of the same temperature, around about 45 degrees year round, and you could work all the time. See, you didn't get too hot, or you didn't get too cold. The only thing is that the humidity in there was kind of tacky, you see. And we would eat in there, and you'd have your lantern on your head. See, they didn't have no electricity in the mine then. And they had it in the entry.
Carbide lamps?
Yeah, they had them in the entry, but they didn't have them back there. You had carbide lamps on your head. You put carbide, this little light, and you hit it, there's a flit in there, and it lights it. And
there was a cave in that hill called the Bomb Cave.
Yeah.
Did you ever get in that cave?
Well, they blasted into that thing one time. It was a mistake. See, the engineers there, they had this all mapped. And they'd tell you, they'd measure with tape measures, and they'd just tell you about where you're at. But they made a mistake on that, and when they blasted that, some of them rocks out there, they blasted into that.
Well.
Yeah, but it didn't hurt anybody.
How did you dig the shale?
Well, they dig the shale just like they did the rocks. See, that shale vein was 15 foot, a 15-foot vein, the shale. Well, they would take, let's see, 15, no, it was 27 feet, because if they half of 27 would be 10, 13 and a half feet to the ceiling. Well, it was 13 and a half feet on up, but they would take 13 and a half foot first, see, and go back 300 feet, which is the width of it, see. And then after they got that down, then they'd move the track back, then they'd drill up in the ceiling to get that other 13 feet, and they'd blow it down. See, that's how big it was. And the shale, after the shale's awfully easy broke. Shale is heavier than rock.
But they did use dynamite.
Oh yes, they had a dynamite magazine down in there thing. Yeah, they. Well, that was when they put that big blast on the hill. They'd give you about 5 minutes to get out of the main room. Because if it's any of it going to fall, it'll fall on them big wide room before it'll fall in its entrance, because you ain't got much ceiling. And we would always get next to a steel cart and get down next to the cart, so if it did fall, it hit that cart first. But after that blast, that hill, you can just feel it roll, see? And you hear shale falling every place. And we would wait about a half an hour to be sure it all fell, see? Yeah, before we went back in there, went to work. And then they had air in there. They had a big fan back in there that sucking air down, see, to blow in there. You had to go to the black dam's what they call it, see. It was, the air was dead. You'd die in there if it didn't blow air in there. And you could tell when some of them fans would get down, and you could tell when the air's getting bad. You see the rats and the mice taken out.
Were there lots of rats?
Oh yeah, there was rats in there, and those rats, they knew when the air was getting bad.
Oh yeah.
When them rats had started out, you better start going too. Yeah.
Oh well, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that was some thing. I'll tell you. I drove a mule in there for 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was something.
Well, Bryan, let's talk a little bit about your living here on the south side. Was this your folks' home?
No. My folks lived up the old Baptist cemetery way on the north side.
I see.
Way up there, the old Baptist cemetery. It's an old cemetery in Hannibal. Yeah. And that's where they lived at, my father's cemetery. And then my father, he went to Kansas. My mother got married again and went to Quincy. And I was just a kid then, and I lived with my brother. And in other words, I didn't have a home then.
Yeah.
And I went to work at Marconi Hotel when I was 17-year-old, I think, somebody run the elevator.
Now, how long ago would that have been?
Well, my God, I'm 82. That's way back there. Yeah.
Wouldn't have been, well, it wouldn't have been in the earliest days of the hotel, but it would have been fairly early.
Oh, it had been fairly old. Yeah. I worked at that hotel when there was a man out of Kansas City owned it. Then there were several people owned it out of Kansas City. His name was Kohler, and then Hugo, the main one.
Yeah.
He bought it and started the business there. Hugo did. And I was a bellboy and run the elevator. I got $7 a week in my board, and I lived on the top floor on an army cot.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and I lived on the top
Did
floor.
you have a room?
No, it was a junk.
Dormitory.
It was a junk room, but it just had an army cot in. That was the best I had. I didn't have a home seat, and I got $7.50 a week, and then I made tips. You know, where the Masonic Temple is now, and you know where that is.
Yes.
Well, that used to be an old Park Opry House, way back in them days, and there used to be musical tabloids come in there. There'd be maybe 30 or 40 people in a group. And they'd have plays there that would last sometimes 3 or 4 days. Part of it today, and then they'd be continued to the next night, see. And all of them people lived at the Mark Twain Hotel of a night. And I was bellhop, and I really made the tip, see. They'd all come down there, and they'd put their take one whole floor and drink and get liquor, and I'd go down to the saloon, I'd get the orders, you know. And I made more money, 4 times money in tips than I did in wages.
How much would a tip have been in those
Well,
days?
I'll tell you, it depends on how drunk they get. most generally 25 or 30 cents. But I've had them give me a $5 bill and say, keep your change. Get tight, you know. And
Well, in that old Mark Twain hotel, at one time there was a fire. Do you remember there having been a fire down there? Not necessarily when you worked there.
no, I don't remember the fire.
Yeah. The hotel itself. You have any recollections of anything unusual that happened at the hotel?
Well, I tell you, the basement kept sinking because originally the hotel, my dad remembered that, there's a big pond in there.
Yeah.
See, there used to be a creek run right down Main Street. Used to be a creek, and there's bridges across it, little foot bridges. But it was a creek. Well, that was filled in. Well, right in where the Mark Twain Hotel was, it was kind of a little lake in there. Well, they drained that and filled it all in, and they built that Mark Twain Hotel, and it kept it sinking, sinking down. And they had to keep putting concrete in there, see. And I guess eventually they got to stop that, I don't know.
Apparently it's stable now.
It probably is now. But they had trouble at the Mark Twain Hotel, you know, got the water main busted, see, and ruined it.
Recently.
Just recently,
Yeah. Now there was a barber shop in connection with that hotel.
Yes, there was a barber shop right east, and then the Western Union had a place there too, the Western Union Telegraph business. Yeah, and then there's a barber shop there too, and there was a saloon in there, and a big lobby, and then there was a silver room, and they had 3 dining rooms, a silver room, and then another dining room, and then the main dining room for big functions, you know.
Do you remember any famous people that were here that might have been there while you were there?
Well, there were a lot of them, but I just really, there was a lot of governors that came there, and big shots like big lodges and Masonic Lodge put on the big shots came in there. I didn't know their names, and of course I'm a Mason now, but I wasn't at that time, and so there was something else. The trains, there used to be 4 railroads in here. The short line, Katy, Wabash, and MK&T. And at that time, there was, and the boats on the river. They did, but there was no trucks, you know. And everything come by either up the river on the steamboat, or else on the railroad. And there was a wonderful business of express. Like certain people here, they had 2 horses and have haul stuff around, you know. And they used to. I never will forget that. There was one colored fellow worked there, and he had a mule, and he started transferring business. And the other fellows, of course, there was nothing to keep him from doing it, but there wasn't no laws like it be now. And he had the mule and his little pickup wagon in the back of the Mark Twain Hotel, and someone went back there and cut the harness all to pieces on the mule, and they took the wheels off and loaded the wheels in Bear Creek. I never will forget that.
That eliminated competition.
That's the way they did it. Yeah, I'll tell you. The steamboats used to come up the river there, and the old Dubuque, they used to haul apples from Calhoun County, and they haul them up here and put them in stores at Ice House. They store them apples in there, and they'd have colored guys on there rolling the barrels out, and they got 3 cents a barrel for rolling in these barrels up. There was a man standing there giving 3 cents every time he rolled a barrel up. See,
from the waterfront?
No, off from the boat.
Off from the boat.
They up to the level part, and then they'd put them on big piles, and then they'd horse and wagons would haul them over to stores and put them in the ice house. And they had a stockyard there too with cattle. See, they hauled up cattle.
You mean there at where was that located?
Well, that was just right on the riverbank, just right beside where the boat landed there. There was a boat landing there, and they had stockyard there. And when of course they'd be on the bottom deck, the cattle and the horses, pigs and everything else, and they drive them up that and put them in that stockyard. See.
Well, now in connection with today, where would those stockyards have been? About where would they have been located?
Well, See, they, you know where the light plant is?
Yes.
Well, it was right in there beside the light plant. Of course, it wasn't there then.
Uh-huh.
And it was right in there, right
Between
in there.
there and the river.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember an old building in there before they put the stonework in and changed it, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you had any stockyards there.
No, that my God, that's 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Longer than that, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that used to be a big deal of stock. And see, they could ship that stuff up the river cheaper. They didn't know what the railroad had a few stock cars, didn't have too many. And if they'd have 8 or 10 carloads of stock, it didn't have many cars to put them on. So they come up the river on boats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Do you recall any particular instances of
that lumber yard? They did away with that because the river interfered with it. And then Crookshank built it right where the ballpark is over here. That was all Crookshank lumber in there. See, Crookshanks and Pettibones was lumber people. And then that was all lumber yards in there then. See, and it had the sawmills in there too. And Bear Creek that used to. See, they got that dam out there now that eliminates a little bit of it. But I've seen the water get plumb up on Main Street from Bear Creek. The water get plumb up. And then finally, Pettibone and Mahan, they done away with that. And then Crookshank started a lumber yard on North Main Street. That's right by the monument up there. Well, that's all that out in there where them buildings are now. Where they made the lumber yards in there.
Do you remember the old ferry boats?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My uncle run a ferry boat.
Now, what was his name?
Dugan.
Dugan?
George Dugan. And he didn't own this boat. There was another group of people, men that owned the boat. But their landing was right there, storing it in Tice House.
Uh-huh.
And they haul wagons on it, too, see. I think they could get 3 or 4 wagons on that, besides the people would get on it. And they landed across the river, across the river there.
They have steam engine on it?
Yeah, they had. And now, there used to be a place right across the river, the name of it was Shepherd, Illinois. It was right across, there's no buildings there now. But it used to be Shepherd, it's on the map. And there was a big general store there that sold everything. And there was a few houses and blacksmith shops, and a few people lived there. They called that Shepherd.
Now, was this over the levee,
Yeah.
protected by the levee, or was it on the riverside?
It was over the levee.
It was over the levee.
Yeah.
But the landing, of course, was on
Yeah,
the riverside.
was on the riverside.
Were there any buildings on this side? Do you recall?
Nothing, only some fishing shacks. They had a few of the fishermen had little huts built along there. Where they tarred their nets and everything. See, I used to shell down it. That used to be a great thing here in Hannibal. Mussel shells. Now there used to be a big bed of mussel shells. It was a half a mile long and maybe 200 yards wide, right down at the foot of Bird and Main Street there. And
Bird and Main.
Yeah.
Bird and Main.
Bird and Main. And there was shells all up and down the river, but those shells congregate all in to make a bed of them.
Well, these were native shells out in the river.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
And I used to shell, and you take I had a John boat, about 18 foot long, and about that wide, and I had 2 standards on the side with forks on it, and I had a 12-foot gas pipe laying on top of that, and I had cords tied on that, and these shelling hooks were just a piece of wire just bent up like that.
Uh-huh.
And I tied that. These mussels lay open.
I see.
Yeah, and I let that bar off so it drag on the bottom, and then I'd have another bar. I was cleaning it off. We had what's called a mule on the back of it. It was made out of a frame about that big gunny sack on it, and you put that down in there, and the current would hit that and pull you along. See, And while you was drifting down the river, you was cleaning the other one off. Well, after you get down where you could tell by the bank on the river where you get into the mussel kill, and then you would pull that bar up, and you pull both of them up on there, and then you take a oar and you pull it back upstream. And when you get back up the stream, you let the empty one off, and you start taking the mussels off from that. And there was the washboard mussels, that was them great big ones. And then there was a butterfly, that's what you get your pearl mussels out of. It was a long slim. And then there's a butterfly, that was a small one. Now the one that's the most expensive was the sand mussels, which were butterflies, they call them. It's about that long, about that wide. There's where you got your good pearl buttons out of that. Now we got $20 a ton for the big mussels. And it didn't take many of them away ton because they were heavy. And then it gradually went up with the sand mussels, I think, was $35 a ton. Now that didn't mean the mussels had to be cleaned. You put them in a tub of hot water and you pop open. And then you clean the mussel out, and then that's the way it was weighed, see. And the shell company out here, by the shoe company, that's where you made the cut. They didn't make the button, they just cut the circles out. And then the buttons were shipped someplace else where there's real holes in it and finished them, see. I've seen piles of mussels out there higher than this house and a block long.
I've seen them out there too. I remember those.
And they used to grind them up for put on soil or somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it had lime in it.
Yeah, it had lime. Yeah. Did you ever see them there?
I saw the stacks of, and I still have a couple that I've saved. Those have had holes poked out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But they also used them. My dad got some and used it for gravel.
Well, you can, yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, you could. You could use your partner for anything.
Now, I'm very interested in these three different kinds of mussels, and you indicate that there was a mussel bed there. Where else were some of these mussel beds that they...
The nearest bed was Louisiana, Missouri. There was a big one there. Oh, there's a big one, Hannibal. Oh, you find the mussels all up and down the river. But where they spawn for other to make mussels, why they all congregate together, see, and they lay open like that, and your hooks come through it and they close up on them. See, minute something gets inside that, they close up, and you can't hardly pull them apart.
Would you catch more than one mussel on a wire?
Well, no, you most generally would catch. I have caught two, but see, you'd have three hooks. Three of them hooks, and you'd always catch one or two mussels on each string, see. Yeah. And I sold at the Pumice. There was a farmer. It wasn't a farmer. He all along there out of the river park, and he raised hogs. And he gave me 50 cents for a large can full of mussels that I'd taken out to feed the hog and chicken, see.
Well, now they were edible, weren't they?
Well, yes, they say I never did eat one of them, but they say that they are. But I never did eat. They say they take like orchards, but I didn't like the looks of them. Now I used to get the pearls out of them, see. Well, now after you put them in this hot water, that will ruin the pearl if it's a perfect pearl, but you can still sell it. And I've got some perfect pearls. I've got some as big as peas. And if it hadn't been cooked, it'd been worth $1,000. Or you get about $1.50, $2 for it. And I had a little bottle I kept them in.
Well, now you did this mussel hunting or fishing, whatever you call it. Were you ever involved in any other fishing? Commercial fishing?
Oh yes, I used to help with commercial fishermen. And me and another man by the name of Lambert, we had trot lines in the river, up above the bridge around Turtle Island. And we'd go up there and we'd set out about 5 trot lines, and then we'd camp overnight, see. We had a little tent and had our cot in there, and then we'd run about every 3 hours, we'd run them. And most generally you'd catch fiddler or catfish. We would bait for them because they sold higher. Carp and buffalo didn't sell very much. They were too cheap. You could seine them anyways. But just like it is now, you take catfish in the stores now, $1, $1.25, $1.50 pound. Well, it always was high, but it never was that high.
And who would you sell them to?
To the fish market.
To the fish market.
Mr. Fowler run a fish market down there at the foot of Hill Street, and there's a boat there up. There's a cabin down there now. I think some
building,
club is
stone building.
Yeah, some yes.
Do you remember him very much?
Oh yeah, John Fowler. Oh my God, yes. And oh yes, I remember him. He had a son just about my age, and we used to go across the river and dig fishing worms.
Yeah.
And we used to sell. You get big fishing worms over there, kid, in them days. And we used to sell a quart of worms for 50 cents.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long to get a quart. You stick that thing in the ground and then hit on the handle of it, and they pop right out of the ground. See.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You dig it in the ground, stick it down first, you'd get it, and then take your hand, hit on it like that, and them fishing worms come right top of the ground. You pick them up. Yeah. Oh, they would. Well, you can do that in your own yard, where these worms. You just take a fork, you stick it in the ground where you see fishing worms, and hit on it and see if they don't come up. Oh yeah, they come right out.
Vibration, I guess.
Vibration caused that. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Across the river was a great place for fishing worms, but it wasn't as good as worms. Them was the long, slim sandworm. Now the best worms was the black ones. You get around your homes, around where these gardens. They call them night crawlers, in other words.
Big ones.
Yeah, big ones. And they don't come to the top of the ground very easy. But you do get them after a rain. You take a real hard pouring rain and wait about a half hour, you can go out and pick them up off the ground. Yeah.
Did you ever do frog hunting?
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of frog hunting on the Snai over there. There never was no law on frogs this year in the last year, you know. And I had a flashlight, and I had a pole about that long. It had a hook on it.
About 5 feet long.
Yeah, about 5 feet, and it had a great big river hook, and I had it bent up a little bit, and you take and put that right there and get him out of the chin, see. Well, if you want to catch him in the daytime, get your pole about 6 or 8 feet long, hang a string on it about that long, put a little piece of white cloth on it, hold that over your head, and he'll jump at it. You get it.
You don't even need a hook.
Oh, you don't need a hook. No, he jump, he swallow it. I've got as high as, some good nights I've got as high as 50 frogs.
Is that right?
Yeah, but you sold those frogs. I remember Carter he used to run a produce house on
Quattrochi?
Yeah, Quattrochi. And he shipped those frogs, see. And he gave you a quarter apiece for frogs, if they were big ones. And there was 3 different kinds of frogs. And now the green frogs, you generally get around ponds in the farm yard, them big green ones. But the black swamp frogs are kind of a rusty color, kind of speckled. I've seen some of them weigh high as 2 pounds.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they used to be that they'd only save the legs. But then years later, when it's getting scarce, you save the whole frog. But I don't like frogs. I don't like the taste of them. They're halfway between fish and chicken.
That's right. That's right.
I don't like them.
That's right.
And my wife would never cook one of them, see. Now you take a frog and skin a frog and clean him and put him in a pan, put salt on him, he'd jump out of that muscles.
The
nerves. And he'd just quiver and jump. My wife could stand looking at it. The turtles do the same way.
Do they?
Oh yeah, and I used to hunt turtles, see, on the sandbars up the river. Now, your big snapping turtles, you never see them out in the river. You see them in swamps around up where the water is stagnant, see. But the sand turtles, you could go along where the sandbars are out in the river, and you could go along with a pole about that long, and it'd have a blunt nail on it, and you could see where one had went along, and then it stopped, and take and punch that down, and you could feel him, see. And just dig down and get him out there, see. Sand, soft shells they call them. Soft shell turtles, you fry it, see. Those frying turtles, your half snappers, they make soup out of them. See, it's different. They claim there's 7 different kinds of meat in a turtle. I couldn't believe that.
Now you used to be over in Illinois quite a little bit.
Oh yeah,
around the Snai.
Oh yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say the Snai and what the Snai was.
Well, I'll tell you what the Snai was. Right back, you know where the first island is above the bridge, that Turtle Island. About halfway up between that, there's a chute there. There's an inland chute there. What must be as wide as this room. It's a little bit lower than the rest of it. And that's the leading of the Snai. And the Snai goes down through the bottom. It drains the farmland. See, you can cross the Snai over there now. Where that on the highway, you can see it. And when the river would get high, the water would run down through the Snai. And then when the water gets low, why, this would be too low up here for the water to get in, and then that's when the fishermen made their money, when the fish couldn't get out, see. And they'd take saying it. You wasn't supposed to say that, but he did. And I've seen them catch old man Grove that lived in that house above the Hannibal Bridge up there, right along there. Griffith's flower shop man lives there now. Well, Grove lived there, and we lived in the next house. And he was a commercial fisherman. He also lit the government lights. Up and down the river, about ever so far, there'd be a light stick up there. It was run by a lantern. And now, there are batteries. They last a week or 10 days. But at that time, them had to be lit every other day. And he made good money by lighting that, besides he fished too, see. And I've seen him come in. He had a skiff was 22 feet long and 6.5 feet wide and about that deep. Just full of carp and buffaloes, you get it.
Yes.
And it's over 10 cents a pound. Yeah.
Well, now, I know where that house is, where Griffiths have it.
Yeah, well.
And you said you lived in the next house?
Yeah, there used to be a house next to it. Yeah.
Now that's Scipio.
Yeah, that's Scipio.
You lived there at what stage in your life?
Oh, I lived there, I guess, I was 13 or 14 years old when I lived there. About 3 or 4 or 5 years, and I went to the Army and went to National Guard down on the Mexican border. But that ice house was built in 1909. You can see the date up there on it. And my brother helped build that ice house.
Oh yes, they never ever used it, did they?
Huh?
They didn't ever use it.
Oh yes, they used that for several years. They cut ice off in the bay and off in the river. And I used to help do that. And they run this ice in there, and they had a big chute there, and they had steel belts on them up there, and they had pleats across these belts, and they'd push these cakes of ice. They was about that wide, and maybe that long, about that thick. According to how thick the ice was on the river. And they'd take pipe poles and they'd push it up in these bars and take it up them chutes. And well, now the ice house itself was, they started at the bottom, see. Well, they put straw down there, and they set the ice in ways. They wouldn't set it flat ways, set it in ways, and they left the space between it about that big, and they punched straw down in there.
Straw?
Yeah, to keep it, the air from getting in there, see.
Some places use sawdust.
Well, yeah, but they used straw at that time. And they have used sawdust, but it's a little bit hard to get. And there's plenty of straw. And then after they get that one whole section in the bottom full of the ice, then they put straw on the top of that, and then they start over again, just building it up, see. And then the railroad cars in them days, they iced them, see. On the end of each car, they had holes where they throw the ice down in the Burlington, the Wabash. Yeah.
Well, now, when you lived up there, you would have roamed all over those hills.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Up in there.
Ain't been a foot of hills I ain't been on.
Or, you know where Oney Bowen's place used to be?
Yes, sir. I know him. Where the concrete, you know where the concrete ice house is?
Yes.
All right, just about quarter of a mile on up around that road. Oney Bowen lived right up there.
There were a lot of Indian arrow points up there in those fields.
Oh yes, I've dug into those. I had a lot of Indian arrows and stuff I got out of it. You don't always get it, but there's many people digging after them.
Yeah.
Now there was another Bowen. His brother lived on up about 6 miles. He got killed by a bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, he's out in the barnyard and that bull killed him.
Yeah.
That was Oney Bowen.
Roberta, what subjects would you like to talk about?
On those hills, were there any old chimneys or any old evidence of cabins up there?
What?
On the hill.
Well,
no.
nothing.
You ask him because...
At one time, there was an early explorer had a little town up there between Bowen's house and Scipio, up against the hill. And supposedly, a number of years ago, people could remember some chimneys sticking up there just at the edge of those fields?
I remember the chimney, but I don't know the name of it. I remember there were two of them. There wasn't a pie. There'd been part of them fell over. But I remember the chimney. Yeah. Now the old Bay Mill, you know.
Yes.
You've heard of that.
Yes, I've seen it.
Well, anyway, I don't remember when it was running, but my dad told me about it. It Rumble Water Power.
Yeah.
And it's part of the old mill's there yet. That is some of the old timbers and stuff there. And they used to grind corn there. You know, it's grind by birds. A big flat rock, and it was hollowed out. And there's another big one down here, and it's run from this water power, and it grinds it, see?
Yeah.
And this old corn meal and flour stuff.
Yeah. What else, Roberta?
You said you were in the Mexican War.
Yes.
Were you in that Company E?
Company E.
Company E?
That's right.
Uh-huh.
On the Mexican border.
Did you have a lot of experiences down there?
Oh, yes, my God, yes. See, that Villa and Carranza, you heard of those?
Yeah.
Well, they was fighting one another, see? And Villa, Pancho Villa, well, now, he was a renegade. He raided a lot of those ranchers down there and took the cattle and mistreated the women and everything. Now, Carranza didn't do that. Now, he was fighting Villa, see? And when we were down there, and we were 60 miles down from Laredo, right down, we had to walk it, see, and we had a camp down there. Army trucks brought us our stuff to eat and ice and stuff, and oh yes, you could see their fires where they'd have fires over way in the distance. We couldn't tell whether it was Carranzas or Ponce Villas or who they were, but we know that they were outlaws. Because they raided a lot of the ranchers. That's what we was there for, protect the ranchers.
How long were you down there?
9 months.
9 months.
Yeah. And then I came back. When I come back, I just back 3 or 4 months, and then we went overseas.
World War I.
Yeah, we was, see, we was in the National Guard. Well, they mustered us out of the National Guard into the regular Army. And I went overseas then. I was overseas 1 year. And, yeah, I was in all them battles overseas.
Were you married at that time?
No. No.
What was your wife's name, maiden name?
Who, me?
Uh-huh.
My name was Sigler.
No, your wife's maiden name.
Patterson.
Patterson.
Her name was Patterson.
Was she a Hannibal girl?
Yes.
What was her first name?
Catherine.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Do you have any children?
I have a daughter who lives right next door to me, and my son died last year.
No.
He's a great ball pitcher, Leonard Sigler. And he died pitching ball. And my daughter lives next door to me here.
On this Company E, now, did they change the name of that before you went to the World War?
Well, they call it the National Guard. No, they still call it Company E. We call it Company E, but it was Company D. Some of them call it D and some of them call it E. Yeah. But in other words, we just went by the National Guard rules, and only was in the regular Army. We was out of the National Guard, with regular Army, and with the 35th Division. See? Yeah. That was 2nd Battalion of 35th Division.
Which were some of the cities that you were in, or the battles that you were in? The company.
Well, when we first went over there, we went to France first, Saint-Nazaire, France, and we was there for a little while, about a month, and then they took us from there up to Saint-Mihiel, that's in Alsace-Lorraine Mountains, and we was on. It's supposed to have been a peaceable sector to get us used to it, see. But like the hell long ways from being peaceful. And so then we was up there for, I don't know, a month or two. And then finally they brought us back for a rest period. And then they took us out again. And next place we hit was the Argonne Forest. I was in Argonne Forest. And I got wounded in the leg, got a shot of gas. And we went over the top September 26, 1917, I think it was. I went over the top September 26, 4 o'clock in the morning. We went for 4 days and nights, no rest. But we couldn't catch the Germans. They kept going back and back. Yeah. I was glad though when it was over. Everybody was glad.
Sure. Do you remember?
We went in at 265 men, 5 days a night. We come out with 86. But they all wasn't killed. Some of them was gassed. And some of them was lost. And some of them was wounded. But we come out with 86 out of 250.
Those would have been primarily Hannibal men, wouldn't they?
See, we was mustered in service. Half of it was Kansas and half of it was Missouri.
I see.
It was half. There was 250 men to a company. It was half Missouri and half Kansas. See?
Where'd you go for your first training?
Huh?
Where did you go for your first training?
Training? Nevada, Missouri out here.
Nevada.
And then we went to Camp Punson, Kansas for a little while.
Yeah.
And then after that's Camp Punson, Kansas is when they mustered half of Missouri and half of Illinois, half of Missouri and half of Kansas. They put us all together. Yeah. I was a scout sergeant, and that's a pretty dangerous job. I didn't know I was getting into it, or I wouldn't have volunteered. I ain't to be on a dead hero in with a dam. But I thought it was something easy. And we was the first ones over the top. I never done that if I knew it. You know, that's what they tell me, a dead hero in with dam. Only memory.
Bryan, when we had a report, we read a report about when the soldiers left Hannibal on the train, about the big celebration or the big setup.
Oh yes.
Tell us a little bit
I
about
never
that.
forget that. Yeah, we come through Hannibal here, see. And I called my mother and father, and everybody was down to the station, and bawling and crying and screaming. And I was about half drunk. I didn't know where he was going. Everybody had us a bottle. I had an Uncle George Dugan that was the one running that ferry boat, and at that time the saloon just put out little samples of whiskey, little bit bottle. Yeah, and he brought me about half a basket full. And man, I'm telling you, I didn't know I was on a train or airplane. I'll never forget that. We went to after we got then we took when we started to France. After we started to go, we went to Mineola, Long Island, New York, and it was raining and muddy, and then we stayed there 3 days, and then they put us on the boat.
Who were some of the other fellows, Bryan, from Hannibal that were in with you? Do you recall? Were there any?
Oh yes.
That you can recall?
Well, there was Gibby Church. Oh my God, I don't know all the names of all of them. There was a lot of them from Hannibal, and there was a lot of them didn't come back. Yeah, there was a lot of them didn't come back. There was, I think, near as I can remember, there's about 32 out of the whole company that got killed outright. And then there was a lot of them was just wounded, see, and there's some of them just gassed. Now I got mustard gas. Now mustard gas, you can inhale it. It smells like mustard, but it eats your lungs up. Now chlorine gas, you can't inhale it. It just cuts your air off. And I was advancing one time, was in the Argonne Forest, and there was a shrapnel hit that little tube here. There's a can down here. There's just chemicals in that.
The gas mask.
Yeah, gas mask. And all at once I took a breath of air and couldn't breathe. It was chlorine gas went in through that hole. And I run my hand up the tube and I found the hole. Well, I squeezed it too on the top, see. Well, I took the thing out of my mouth and breathed inside the mask. Well, it didn't take you long to breathe the oxygen out of that, see. And I kept her running until I found a dead soldier on the ground. And I yanked his mask off. And I held that tube and I yanked this off and I put his mask on me. Then I put the can back in mine. If I hadn't about it, I wouldn't have made it.
Well, those were some wild experiences.
Oh my God, I could sit here and talk for 6 months. Things I don't remember.
Bryan, up here a little ways, there is I don't know what the street is up here on the south side.
Valley. There used to be a brewery.
was it a brewery that was up there?
Yeah, there's an old brewery there.
Well, I want you to tell me about that in a few minutes. But
Yeah.
but supposedly up there at one time there was some sort of a doctor's office that made medicine, that sold it. Did you know anything about that?
Dr. Rachel.
Did you know about that?
Yeah, I never seen him, but I heard about it.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Rachel, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, he was a what you call a pill doctor. Minor surgery he could do, like taking your appendix out or throat, but internal operations you'd have to go to hospital.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But he was also an osteopath.
Uh-huh.
And there was a lot of people like him because he wasn't in favor of hospital that you had to go. And most other doctors, that's the first thing you do when you send you to hospital. Because they could visit 100 patients in there before they mess around, going around and, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, now that old brewery up there, I don't remember, I know where the brewery is at. And I've heard old timers talk about it. And the name of that brewery was Beetle. Beetle. But I never heard tell that beer ever being distributed around here. And then Ruth Riedel had a brewery here, see.
Yeah. Well, now I want to come back and put this on a different tape in a few minutes. So let's skip the breweries right now and talk about some other things.
All right.
Where did you go to school at?
I went to school at the Stoll School right up here. I only went to the 4th grade.
Uh-huh.
My mother and father separated, and I would just skip. I was put out as a slave war on the Illinois bottoms when I was about 13 years old, and I was put out grubbing the sprouts down on the bottoms there for 50 cents a day. And so I had a tough time of it. I had no home.
Do you remember a story about when they put an addition on Stoll School that they covered over a cave?
No, I don't remember that. No, I don't remember that. It wouldn't be hard to cover over caves on the south side. It was all caves.
Yeah.
Remember any boys that got lost in this cave here?
Yes.
Tell us about when you lived with the Daltons.
Well, I'll tell you, after my mother and father separated, I had no home, see. And he had 4 sisters that worked at the laundry. And their daddy was a contractor, ordinary, just a little contractor, building sidewalks and chimneys and stuff. And he had a boy called Bill, and he's about my age, 13 or 14, maybe 15. And we went and helped the old man, mix mortar for him, carry a brick up, help him. And I lived at their house. There was 4 daughters and 2 boys, and Bill and George. Well, one day was up on the river road, he was, and there used to be a sand digger up there where they scooped the sand out of the barges, on the barges. And there was a whole string of sidecars along there, and it was full of sand.
About where would that be now?
Well, that would be, where stored, that big old building stored in the ice house.
Yeah.
That big old, well, it was just past that a little way. There's a cave along there,
Yeah.
You ever in that cave?
Yes.
Well, all right. There's a cave. Well, that was right along there of where these sidecars was. Well, Bill and 3 or 4 of the other, George and 3 or 4 of the other boys playing on that, and they got over on the end of it, and the switch engine down here bumped into it and knocked them off. And it fell with his arms across the track. And I was there within, 15 minutes after it happened. And it cut this arm off, and someone grabbed his feet and pulled him out, and got his head out. Time to cut his head off, but it hit this arm, cut this arm off. And they took him over in a hammock there, in one of the yards there, and they waited for the ambulance to come up there and get him. And now he learned to do everything with him. He had metal hooks on his arm. George, his name was. And they still lived on Mark Twain Avenue at that time. And then years later, he got married, And years later, he got to be a noted swimmer. He swum the river many times. This is that stub arms. He's expert. And then he got to be instructor to YMCA, swimming lessons. And he got to be pretty well known. So therefore, he was elected. He run for, wasn't a city collector? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it
at the
was.
courthouse, and he had his office in the courthouse. And then he had something got wrong with the inside of him, and he had to be operated on. I think it was cancer or something. And he worried himself to death, and he hung himself up on Birch Street, the second house in the corner. They found him hanging. And George, he was really smart, and that I think it was cancer because there wasn't no cure for it. I think he got up on the steps and put this rope around his neck and he jumped off the steps. And they found him hanging.
Well, that's too bad. What else do you have there, Roberta?
Well, we were talking that day about the Depression and the soup lines. The Depression days in the 1930s.
That's right. I seen them. Oh my God, yes. Oh, that was terrible.
Where were they?
Huh?
Where were they?
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest one was a soup line. It was around the close to where the Salvation Army was on Church Street. I seen a soup line there a block long, and the Salvation Army and the YMCA and a couple of the other lodges, Masonic lodges, they furnished the stuff there, and you go by there with your bucket and get soup. And then the bread, the bakery, Saltzman Bakery and Root Bakery, they furnished bread, day old bread, and that was terrible.
Well, was there a soup line down where the old Star Theater used to be?
Yes, there was one there. There was about 3 or 4, because there wasn't enough room for all of them. One line, see. Yeah. And the farmers would bring in vegetables and stuff and donate for them to make soup with, see. And there was no pastry, it was all soup. And of course that soup was mighty good. I got some of it. I wasn't exactly happy in it, but I got some of it. I was pretty fortunate. I worked for Frank Key for 30 years, paper hanger and painter. And in the wintertime, I hung paper. And in the summertime, I kept the paper for me for the winter. In the summertime, I painted houses outside, see. I worked 30 years for him.
Wow.
And so I was pretty fortunate I didn't have to get into any of that. And so we didn't have money to stow away, but we had enough to live on. And there's one thing I would have hated to have done was got into a soup line or asked for help for I was poor. There's a lot of people that's got just a little bit of feeling towards that.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough I didn't have to get into that.
Well, now, we grew up during the Depression, but, we were still just kids at that time, and so we didn't appreciate the fact, that times had ever been better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
When that happened.
Yeah.
You remember the WPA, PWA?
Oh, my God, I worked on that, the dam down the river down here.
You worked on the dam?
Yeah, I worked on that.
No.
I was oiler down there. Yeah, I worked on that. I made $31 a week.
That's pretty good pay.
It was 4 days. I think it was 4 days I worked. But that was putting the locks in the dam in down there. Yeah. And I had a little Ford pickup truck, and I used to haul others in it, and they paid me $2 a week. I hauled 6 in it. Well, that was $12 a week, and gas is only about 10 cents a gallon, see.
A little different now, isn't it?
Oh my God, we can talk about it. Yeah, that was the days, though, I'll tell you. But you take it in the sense of words. You didn't make much money, but it didn't take much money to live.
That's right.
You could easily go to Roderick, where they kill cattle and hogs up on North Main Street there, and where they cured that meat. You could buy a slab of bacon for $1.25. A whole slab of bacon for $1.25. Yeah. And then it got eventually where later on this last year you couldn't buy bacon. Well, bacon, you use bacon for pastry. Takes a piece of bacon and sugar is impossible to buy. It was really tough times. Now, the only ones that survived that is saloons, see. There'd be a lot of men that would do most anything, pick up whiskey bottles and beer bottles back in the alley and trade them in for liquor, see. And they'd go hungry rather and have their beer to drink, see. And there was saloons just on every corner and in between the box. Yeah, there was saloons every place.
Do you remember the smallpox epidemic?
Yes. No, I heard of it. I don't remember.
Yeah. You know where Granny's Restaurant and Saloon was?
Yeah, that's out on Market Street. On Market Street. Yeah, right on the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked there when I was a young guy. Granny lived upstairs.
Yeah.
And me and another young kid, we stayed downstairs, and the streetcars used to all stop there early. And the conductor, they'd all get off and come in there and eat. See? And I never forget that.
I said smallpox, but actually what I meant was the flu.
Oh, yes. Oh, I had the flu in France. Like they died.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's more of them died of flu than there was bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this Granny's Restaurant had a barracks upstairs for men.
Oh, yeah, that's
during
right.
That, during that period of time.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Granny. Then he eventually sold that place and went on Mark Twain Avenue. Got a place over there, a little better, high-class place, see. Oh, yeah, old Granny Griggs. Yeah.
Bryan, the South Side at one time was almost a separate city. Now, this would have been many years before your time.
They call it Little Brooklyn.
Little Brooklyn.
After you cross Bear Creek, it's Little Brooklyn.
Do you recall any stories or things about the early bridges from the other side of Bear Creek over here?
Well, see, now you know where the viaduct is.
Yes.
All right, now that wasn't there. There was just an orange bridge down there. When you come across that bridge.
When you were a boy.
Yeah. You just come across the bridge, there's an orange bridge, and then there's one down on Main Street. See, there's two bridges. Yeah. And then there's one out on Ely Street, the other bridge there. But all the traffic went across this bridge. And practically, there's very few cars in.
Yeah.
They practically all horse and buggy and wagon.
And another thing, Spooner Creek.
Who?
Spooner, S-P-O-O-N-E-R.
That's way out by Ely Street. That's way out Bear Creek.
Well, now Spooner Creek is.
Oh, you're talking about Spooner Creek.
Yeah.
Oh, that's down here by the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, does Spooner Creek? Is that the main branch? Does that come down?
Right back of my house here.
But does it start up on Fulton?
Yeah.
Or and then
it used to come down right down this way. They covered this over, and they put pipes in that, and there's a creek back of my house. Run into that.
Yeah.
And that's Spooner Creek.
Now there was a creek also that came down Valley Street up here that joined that creek somewhere within a block or so.
Well, now listen, that was all Spooner Creek.
Yeah, all parts of
Spooner. That drained Valley Street and Syra. It drained that whole holler up there. It come down that creek right out. It used to come down this way, but they cabled this over, and they run it back into here. Now it's right back in my house. I've seen it behind Apper in my yard. Yeah.
I would like to know more about the road along the river that goes towards Saverton and to the Mark Twain Cave.
Well,
that road, how long has that road been along the river there? Do you know?
It passed my memory, and I've been here many years. It went right down the bluff, right down Main Street, and just follow the bluff right around, see. And it went down through Saverton, Monkey Run, and Saverton was first, and Monkey Run. They call it Monkey Run. I don't know why they call it that name. And then Saverton. That was another little village there. And there's where there's a lot of, they call them Dagos. And when we was putting the dam in there, you made what they call Dago wine. You've heard of that. And you used to get a quarter for 20 cents.
The reason she's asking that question, Bryan, years ago, one of her aunts wrote a diary, and she talked about going up on a road up over Lover's Leap, going to the cave. And I seem to remember as a kid that there was a road that didn't go right straight up, but it kind of zigzagged back and forth that went up the bluff.
Yeah, that's Valley Street. Yeah, you could miss the big part of it to the right. I remember that road, but they disbanded that road after they made this other road down this way. See, they disbanded it, and then that was Lover's Leap up there. See, they explained quite a few instances of the history of Lover's Leap, and I don't remember. Ever since I can remember, it's been a road right down the river. Ever since I can remember, because that's the only way that people from Saverton, Monkey Run, down there, that's the only way they had to get to town. Now they did used to miss that by going west of Lover's Leap, but it was awful, some hills, awful bad. And this way, they made that road up through there where it was passable year round. But I don't remember, because ever since I can remember, that road's been there.
But if the river was up...
So it never got up that high enough to get on that road.
Oh, all right.
No, it didn't get, because it was up high enough. Now, it would get all around it, and there's certain low places down along Saverton, and that holler down there, that next holler down there, that would be blocked off. And the people from Saverton had to go around this way to get home. But you had to get awful high to do that. Yeah, that's right. That was something.
Any other general questions, Roberta?
This has been real good.
Well, there's a lot of that stuff I don't remember yet. I get that 80 mark. There's a lot of things that way back there. I sat there in this chair. You know, my wife died about 7 years ago, and it don't seem natural. It seems like I can hear rattling dishes out there yet, and it's awful lonesome. Yeah. When night comes in, this wall just flows in on me. Yeah. And my daughter lives next door because they stay pretty well to themselves, and they have problems of their own, and I don't tell them none of my problems.
Interview and the beginning of a tape that we trying to talk with several different people, but we wanted to talk about the breweries and the saloons and some of the other things in Hannibal that certain people would call vices. So we're talking today with Bryan Sigler. So let me start by asking you, Bryan, if you would tell us about the different breweries that were in Hannibal.
Well, the biggest brewery was Roof Riedel's. That was out on Grand Avenue. And then there's a Roof. There was a Roof brewery. Roof and Riedel used to be in together, then they separated. And Riedel went to Quincy, opened a big brewery in Quincy. Roof, he stayed here for a short period of time. I don't know just how long. And then eventually...
Did they use the same brewery?
Yeah, they used the same brewery for a while, and then I don't know. I've heard rumors about they didn't get along or something. And Riedel, he opened a big brewery on 8th and 8th in Kentucky, I think it was, in Quincy. And he started a big brewery up there. That's when they disbanded. And the Roof, they call it Roof Riedel. But it still went by that name, but still it was two different separate breweries, Riedel and Roof.
Was that R-U-F-F?
R-U-F-F, yeah. And Riedel. And now I think that Riedel had the biggest brewery, but they were both pretty good size. They didn't make any bottled beer. It was all keg beer. And kegs. And the plenty keg was 4 gallons. You buy a plenty keg for $1. And I helped buy a mini one. And yeah, you could go down to Roof Riedel's and they give you a cold pony keg of beer for $1, but you had to put $2 for the keg. You bring the keg back, you give you $1. And that was. And I never will forget, we lived on Pine Street, and my dad worked in the powder monkey in the rock quarry, and a lot of the help over there. They get out on that side hill on them big maple trees, and and I had a little wagon, and I'd go down about 3 blocks down the hill, and I'd get a pony keg of beer. Well, it cost $2. Well, they give it $2, and my pay was when I take the keg back, I got the $1. See? And you get out of that maple tree, and they really get tight. Be there all day. Yeah, and my pay was when I take that empty keg back, I got $1, pretty good wage. Only complaint I had, you didn't drink enough beer.
That was not such a good job in the winter either.
No, they didn't do that in the winter. No, they'd congregate in some house in the basement.
Well, now you were telling about hops and the components, the things they make beer out of.
Yeah.
run through that a little bit, if you will.
Well, now hops is the main thing of beer. And then there's hops, and they yeast it off with yeast, see? And then they have to have sugar in it, see? The sugar to make it start working, and yeast. That's about the only thing that you put in beer. At that time, different, as years have passed, there's different ingredients you put with beer now.
Yeah.
And, but at that time, we just hopped sugar and yeast.
And the hops would come in bales,
Yeah, it would come in great big bunks, like hay. And it's kind of brushy looking stuff, little beads on it. And they were put in some kind of a crusher and crushed, and the dust and all that stuff was taken out of it. And then the rest of that was put in a big vat, and steamed. The vat was steamed. Now that couldn't be too hot because it cooked the yeast. It had to be just hot enough so it wouldn't scald your hand. And then you put your yeast in there. I don't know how much, but they put your yeast in there, put your sugar in there, and then stir it. Maybe them vats maybe a whole 200-300 gallons, maybe more. And then they cover it up, put a cheesecloth over it to keep the ants and the wasps and the bugs out of it. See? And then they had to strain it. Oh yes, I've seen them do it. And then 2 days later they had to be boiling. This thing was on the stove, working, you know, that yeast. Oh yes, they had a stick about 7 or 8 foot long, and had a screen on the end of it. And you just have to get down there and skim the top of that off, get the wasps and honeybees and the wasps out of it, see? Yeah, I've seen them do it many times.
Well, now they put this in kegs, but in a brewery, they also, did they not have a lot of pipes?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Ran it through?
Yeah, they had big vats in there, see? And this was put in those big stainless steel tub vats with a compressed air in there, compressed air in there. And they compressed it, see, to make it so there'd be a gas coming to it from it, see. And then I seen them when they put in these kegs. And the first thing they would do, they had a big hand, about that big around, and they had another little tube come up to this hand. All right, you turn a little button, and this thing went around to so many pounds compressor. Well, they had to make that be enough pressure on that to make this go around to a certain pressure, 20 or 30, whatever it was. When that got to that, well, then they cut the fire off from this one because there was enough gas in it. All right, then they put it in the kegs. Yeah.
So that's the way they did it.
Yeah. And the kegs were all charcoal lines, see, all burnt.
Well, now, another brewery. You told us one time about a brewery over on Mark Twain Avenue.
Yeah, that was another small one. That was up on Mark Twain Avenue about halfway up. And there was the reason there's a brewery there was a big spring there. And they claim that your brewery is better with spring water than it is with this chemical water, see. Right now, the way they make beer now, it's run through some kind of sterilizer business that takes the chemicals, that takes the
minerals.
Yeah, and that's the way they have to do it now.
Do you recall? You told us at the time about this one up on Mark Twain Avenue about Saturday night, what they did on Saturday night.
Oh, that's a big night.
Well, about cleaning out they had to apparently cut off operation at midnight.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Tell us about
that. Well, now, they know just about how much beer is in business in these vats. All right. Now they put this pressure on this, and the more beer they take out of there, the pressure goes down. See, and didn't have the kind of machinery to have to turn that on to make that compression come up when you're taking beer out of it. Well, after he'd get down maybe 15, 20 gallons in there, where you're down at the bottom, he'd practically be a yeast skim, a skim of yeast in there, and they didn't put that in the bottles. See, well, therefore, this beer wasn't drawn out from the bottom. It was drawn up about a foot from the bottom, because that come around down to be yeast. See, and they didn't want to get the yeast in the bottle. Oh, it was strained, but nevertheless, some yeast in it. Of course, later years they've been going it. They had a way of eliminating that yeast. But I made home brewed all the time, and you pull the cap on that ball and smoke like it's on fire. And sometimes you'd have around a bucket of ketchup.
What I recall about about that brewery up there, you was telling us that on Saturday night they'd have to close the brewery down.
Free beer.
And the free beer.
Free beer.
Tell us a little bit
about it wasn't in the law at that time they had to close at a certain time, like you are now. They stay up all night if you want to. Now it's 1 o'clock. Anyway, along about 11:30 or 12 o'clock, they'd wash the gate. They'd wash the gauges on the vat. And they didn't put it east to the bottom. They came off. And they didn't put them more in the kegs. And then they'd ring the bell. And there'd be, 50, 600 people. Their bucket wouldn't. You had to wait on yourself. I was too young to here. but I got some of it anyway. And then these guys, some of them would have quart cans, some of them have big cans this big, you know. And if you had a can too big, they'd bump you out of the way. Some guys, some of them would go to extremes about it. Some of them bring a water tub if you let them. But they're most in a gallon bucket. And you had to turn the spigot on yourself. And you had a way of doing that. Now, if you hook it down about this high, you wouldn't much of a foam. You have to hold that bucket way up here just where it just barely touch it. If you didn't, you get 2/3 foam. And you're trying to get the same way the bartenders do now when they draw your beer. They can make that all foam if they wanted to. So you hold that bucket up, and then as your bucket come in, you have to drop it down a little, see, so you wouldn't get too much foam. And they fight one another. If you had too big a bucket there, they'd bump you out of the way.
They also, I imagine they use some tin cans.
Oh, tin cans, yeah, my God, yes. Anything. Old coffee pots, tin cans.
Rust out, I suppose.
Oh, hell. Down on Main Street, there on North Main Street, in the back, there's an old wooden fence there. And you could get more beer by getting it in a bucket than you could going in the saloon. Of course, it was a nickel a glass, about that big around, about that high. Now it costs you 30 cents. But it's nickel then. And then there's about that much foam on top of it. All right, they had can. Now you could take a can and go in there, and they wouldn't measure it. They'd just hold it on there and fill a can up. And the guys would get back in there by them old fences, and they'd drink. When they get through drinking, they'd set them cans up on them posts out there for the next time, see. And some of them cans would have holes in the bottom, and they'd hold a finger over the hole, see. The old mineral, you remember the mineral springs down there?
Down in back of the
Stillwell?
Ice. Yeah.
Yeah, that old stinking water.
Yeah.
A lot of them drink that water.
Yeah.
I couldn't drink it.
Make you sick? I always thought that drink.
Oh, they claim it was good for you, but I couldn't drink it.
Yeah. Brian, now you've talked about 2 saloons, and you mentioned another saloon up here on brewery, I mean, not saloons. You talked about another one up here on Valley Street.
Yeah.
Do you recall the name of that one?
I did know the name of it. I forgot. Now that wasn't in existence very long. That wasn't over about a year. I don't think.
I see.
I don't think it was there that long. Because the reason why they're putting beer in uncharged barrels. See, and the beer didn't hold up. All them barrels are burnt on the inside.
Yeah,
charred.
charcoal.
Yeah, charcoal. And they was putting beer in uncharged barrels.
I see.
And it didn't hold up, and they couldn't sell it.
There was another brewery at one time on out Fulton Avenue. You know where John Morris lives?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've heard of that.
Back at his place.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about it.
Were there any other breweries in town that you've heard of?
No, that one on Grand Avenue, and the one over here, Ruth Breedles. There was 5 of them. Yeah. Counting this brewery over here.
Yeah.
There was this one brewery up here by this school. They was there quite a while. Yeah, and but they didn't have the technique. You had to be an old brewery man. You had to know your stuff
to really make good beer.
Oh yeah, you had to.
Well, now what about some saloons?
Well, my God, I hate to think I'd name them. They were starting on North Main Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can remember 8. There was in 5 blocks.
8 on North Main.
Yeah, that was the first 3 blocks on North Main. Every door was a saloon except Salvation Army. Salvation Army always has their locations where they drink a lot.
Uh-huh.
Because they want them tambourines, but they just throw money in there, see, drinking, you know. They got good sense. It couldn't kill them. That's a fact. Why, you sitting at the bar drinking and having a good time, and that lady will shake that tambourine. Why, you don't care about 50 cents or quarter, throw it in.
Smart operation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And they always got their Salvation Army Hall right in the worst part of town.
Well, now, out on Market Street, there were some saloons.
Oh, my God, yes. Name of street that wasn't on.
They were all over.
Well, I'll tell you. The main, Market Street, Broadway, and Main Street, them was the main one. There was a few little neighborhood saloons, but not very many.
Were there ever any saloons that you know of over here on the south side?
Oh, yes. They're down on, this is across the viaduct down here. Right to the right there, where them second-hand door are. There were 2. Peg Leg had a saloon over there. I never knew what his name was. He had a wooden leg. And then Sigler had a saloon. My name is Sigler. His famous spelled C and mine was S. Old man Sigler had a saloon there. And then there was another saloon on down in the next block called Berry's. There were 3 as I know of right there on from this viaduct over. And then from there up to Main Street, I can count about 5 or 6. And then past Broadway, and another 4 or 5. Oh, there was a saloon, my God.
Well, there was were there any saloons for black people?
I'll tell you how that used to be. I remember when I was just a kid on Mark Twain Avenue, Johnny Burke's saloon, up on the corner of North and 3rd Street. He allowed no colored people in his saloon. Those prostitute houses, all catered to the north part of town, it's the toughest part of the town, too. There'd be men down there get to drinking, and they'd come down in there, too, see. And they sat on the stools and pat them on the back and love them around a bit. Pretty soon, you know, upstairs they went. You know, they get to make money.
Sure.
That's what you're there for.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, it was terrible. Yes, sir.
Pretty wild part of town.
Oh, wasn't safe to go up there after sundown.
But what was the attitude of the people that the police just kind of looked the other way?
Yes, my God, yes, they got paid off. My son was a policeman for a little while, and he belonged to Southside Christian Church. He was deacon, the same as I was up there. And he seen right away what he had to do, and he quit it. The first beat he had was the alley back on Main Street. That was a tough part. And they gave him that beat. They shouldn't give it to him because he wasn't familiar with it. And he was walking along, and he heard someone tap on the window, and he looked up, and the lady rolled the window up, and she told him to come over there. So he went over there and said, "What do you want?" And she handed him an envelope, and a $20 bill in the envelope, and all the writing was in there was a big question mark for him to keep his mouth shut. So after he seen what it was, he went back and tapped on the window. She comes in and says, "Take this back." He says, "If you ever try to bribe me again, I'm going to send you to jail." His job didn't last long. Them cops are all paid off. And every once in a while, they raid those places, see. Every so often, maybe once a month. Well, those women and those people that run those places, they knew when the raid was going to be, see. And they'd only have about 2 of them in there instead of 7 or 8. Well, they'd fine them $30, $40, $50. Well, the house ladies paid it, see. But they all knew when it was going to be raided. Yeah.
They had a pipeline.
Why, sure they did. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember anything else that, Bryan, that would pertain to the police here, or?
Yeah, this won't be made public.
No.
Well, I'll tell you, we had some good police here too.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah, we had some though that they was for the money, and I knew some of them, and but they didn't last too long because finally they get on it, and they were some of them was in for the money, because police at that time didn't make too much money.
Well, what I'm really interested in knowing, Bryan, is were there any notable cases that you could think of that the police were involved in? Dillinger came through here one time.
Yes, he came through here, but if I'd have been a policeman and he come through here, I'd want to hit. And I wouldn't blame the other police for doing the same thing. Because if you, see, you know, a dead hero ain't worth a damn. I found out
That's right. That's right. They really are.
Yeah.
Well, Roberta, are there any other questions we should ask Mr. Sigler?
No, not that I can think of. He's given us a lot of material.
I really appreciated the things you've told us.
Well, there's a lot of things. We're celebrity or slobbering, what you call it.
Bryan, now you would have been around in the days when they used to have these dancing marathons and dance for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Did you ever enter one of those?
No, I never entered one.
You ever see one?
Oh yes, but I couldn't get a kick out of that.
Uh-huh.
When I danced, I put my heart in. You couldn't put your heart in a marathon. Get out there and wear yourself out. No. I'd rather get a lady in my arm and squeeze her up and dance.
You like that better, huh?
Me and this lady, Quincy, I can show you pictures on the wall, me and her dancing. We won several prizes in Quincy. And there isn't a dance, I believe, that we can't do. It's on the Charleston, the rumba, the polka, they're all dance different. And when you dance with one lady for 4 years, you know them all. And the many times they turn the floor for us. Let's dance.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God,
that's great.
We was at on 24th and 8th Street in Quincy, and there's a German band in Quincy. They play all over it.
Yeah, they play down here.
Yeah, they play
4th of July.
Yeah, and also they play at 8th and State once and they play a lot of polka music. See, well, there must have been 400 or 500 people there. Well, I started playing the Bear Barrel polka, and me and Margie, that's her name, we got out there and we was a little bit conscientious, which is me.